Alright, welcome back to another Redstone tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at hopper clocks. And did you know there's different kinds of hopper clocks? You've probably seen the Etho hopper clock, lots of mechanisms use them, but there are 4 different ways that you can make hopper clocks work in your world. We're going to jump into it and look at it from the original, the vertical, the tileable, and the one-time hopper clock. So let's jump in and see how they work. Okay, and to get started, we're just going to start with the traditional one, and then we'll do kind of the 3 variances from there. So like any hopper clock, it always starts with the hoppers. So we're going to face 2 hoppers into each other. You can see I have a texture pack on here that helps me know which direction that's going. Next, we're going to need to pull a signal out of there. So put a comparator out both sides. We're going to use a piece of wool. You can use whatever you want here. Next to the wool, we're going to place a piece of redstone dust on each side. Take a sticky piston facing into each other and a redstone block. And that is the whole thing. Next, all you have to do is figure out how long you want this. So you could put a full stack, you could put everything you want in there. I'm just going to put 8 so we can kind of see how this works. So as you see, it's just keeps flipping over and over every time this feeds into itself. So what people will do from this is typically run some kind of line of something they want to turn on and off. Now before we jump into our next one, we're probably going to want to turn this off. And that's pretty easy. We're going to put a lever on top, turn that on, and that'll lock it into place and it will just be quiet. So that's nice anytime you have maybe a farm running or something else, you can pause it and then turn it back on when you want. We'll get into another way you can do that too. Okay, so next, let's jump into the second one. Now this one's going to be roughly the same, the way we start it. We're going to put our 2 hoppers. We need to put a comparator out of both sides into a piece of wool or whatever other block you want. This time, instead of the redstone dust going on the side, we're going to put it on top. And the sticky pistons are, instead of on the side, are also going to go on top. So we just need to hit the side of that redstone, side of this redstone, put a redstone block in there. Again, we're going to put our 8 items in there and it's going to run. So this is really great when maybe you need to have just a 1 wide and you need it to be up instead of across. So same basic concepts. And again, if we want to turn this off, put a lever on there and it's off. Cool. That is the first 2 and the most common ways you set this up. Now with this one, we can actually do something a little bit different that makes it so we can have multiple next to each other. Because right now, if we were to put one on here, you can see that it's going to power that dust too. That's not what we want. So let me show you what we do with that. Okay, for this, I'm just going to hurry and recreate what we just did before because it's roughly the same thing. So we'll take these 2 items, again, comparator out both sides, the wool. I probably should have just copy and pasted this, but we're going to do it real quick because as you can see, these aren't that difficult to do. So if you have this kind and you want one that's maybe you want a few of them right next to each other. Okay, and actually before we do that, let me show you how you make this tileable. So what we're going to do is actually take out, well, let's put a block here first. Based off of that, take this out. We're going to put one on the other side and break this. Next, you're going to need a redstone torch. Luckily, we've got one of those handy. We'll put one here, one here, one here, and here. So what that's going to do is now make this tileable. So you can see it wasn't too much different than what we had before. And we got to make sure we put some items in here so we can see it working. But you can see it's not very big of a change. But what that allows me to do is put a second one next to it. Let me do that real quick and show you what that looks like. Okay, so now I've got this other one going and you can see that they are at different times. They both have 8 in, but it depends when you put that 8 pieces in there. But you'll see these could be triggering different things depending on what your needs are. And the cool thing is you could actually make this go super long as you wanted actually, because it's tileable. So that is how you can build off of this one to maybe get a few different clocks in there and be able to run off of that. All right, let's do one more. And this one's going to be based more off of this first one. So let's jump into that. Okay, with those turned off, because they were getting pretty loud, we're going to come in and again build something out here with our hoppers. So let's get those facing each other. We're going to take our comparators out each side just like normal. We're going to put our wool here and wool here. And this is where it starts getting a little different. So on this side, what we want to do is actually put a torch here. Then our piston, where on the first one we put a little redstone dust here. We're going to put in our redstone block, our sticky piston, so just like we had in the first one. And then here, instead of redstone dust, we're going to use a redstone comparator. And what this is going to be comparing is a dispenser that's facing towards us and a hopper facing into that. Now, if you haven't done this little circuit before, it basically pushes an item from here into the hopper, and then the hopper automatically puts it back in. So then on top of this, we're going to put a piece of wool, a redstone torch here. We're going to put a piece of wool on top of that, a dust here, and then we need to put one item in there. And this is a whole different setup just so that we can grab a button and put it here. We're going to put our 8 items in here so it'll go. And this is a one-time hopper clock. So when we push this, you'll see it's going. We should have a redstone line out here so you can see. But this time, it's not going to shoot back. It just did it for the one time. So if you need a specific like 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is, you can do an input into here or a button that turns something on and then turns it off. So that's just a cool little addition at the end of a hopper clock. You can take the traditional one and make it a one-time use. Or maybe you have another clock that feeds into here. I don't know. That's the cool thing with these is you can chain them all together. So that is your basic 4. The traditional one, a vertical one, a tileable one, and a one-time hopper clock. So as you can see, hopper clocks aren't really that intimidating once you know that there are 4 different types and kind of when you could use them. Now tell me down in the comments, where do you use hopper clocks in your world? Traditionally, I use most of mine inside of mob farms that'll make water dispense out of them, or maybe I'll do a lighting display or something like that. But let me know down in the comments what you use them for, and let me know if there's any other types of clocks that you've seen. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.